I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the Black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% Black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Man Listen Show. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you can be notified when we have a new show. Go to our Instagram, click the link in our bio so you can buy some merchandise. And make sure you share the show. Let everybody know about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. I'm your host, Mark B. Let's bring the crew in. All right, just the fellas today. Lab, what's up with you, bro?
What's going on?
It's all good, man. So social media, man, went crazy. You know how they do when, news comes out, especially when we talk about white folks taking advantage of Black people. The brother Michael Oher, he played 8 years in the NFL, and he was the subject of the movie The Blindside with Sandra Bullock. Did you watch that movie?
I've never seen the movie, man. I'll be honest with you. Like you said, I'm not gonna say I had an inkling, but that story, it wasn't something that interests me to go to watch that movie.
I think that I did watch it, but I think it was just like it was on TV.
Yeah.
And I didn't turn it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not interested in any white saviors.
Exactly. White saviors. No.
Yeah. The last white savior show that I used to watch religiously was Tarzan when I was a kid. And that's because we ain't had 24-hour Cartoon Network and shit like that. So
right.
That was it. But I watched the movie. I mean, and it was a typical feel good white folks, saved a poor Negro.
Yeah.
It was what it was. But honestly, white folks, they love to give themselves a congratulatory pat on the back.
Love it.
Even the liberal ones, or the ones quote unquote good white folks,
right.
Obviously, eventually they show that they're still white.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And not that they're not, some of them aren't good people, but sometimes they take advantage of us.
Yeah.
This situation kind of seems fishy. It seems fishy. There's some stuff that came out that you've like, man, maybe I can see it both ways, but at the end of the day, I think that they really did take advantage of this brother.
Mm-hmm.
See, I've been cool on the white savior stories since ESPN.
Well, that's what I say. You and that's the thing. It's always somebody that can benefit, though. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always an athlete or it's
an investment.
It's an investment. That's a good way to put it. That's an investment. Yeah,
it's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
It may seem as if they are being altruistic and doing it out the goodness of their heart, but I don't think they're taking any type of just struggle case. Or somebody that's in need of help at all. I just don't.
Ain't no real life Philip Drummonds, right?
Right. right. But what did they used to call Mr. Drummond? They called him Mr. Drummond?
Mr. D or something like that. Mr. D.
Mr. D. Yeah, Mr. D. Yeah, because you think about it, even though the whole storyline behind Different Strokes is ridiculous in itself, you know. But if they had been calling him dad or some shit like that, that just would have been too far, even back then.
Right.
Remember Different Strokes, man? They used to do the boy Dudley wrong, dude.
But you think about that whole era though, man, because you had Webster.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You had different
Ma'am and George.
Ma'am and George.
Yeah, but they used to boy Dudley, bro. I remember when Dudley was talking to his dad about smoking cigarettes. He's like, Dad, I don't want you to die. He's like, okay, son. Then he went out in the hallway and started. They used to beat you over the head with
They did, man.
with the social awareness back then. You know what I'm saying? You know, that they was kind of little quasi racist. But anyway, so for those who don't know about Michael Oher, young black man, born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
If you know anything about Memphis definitely has some hardships, poverty, crime, drugs, and everything else that goes with, you know, poverty. Michael had a mother who was on drugs, father who was in and out of prison. When he was 18 years old, his father was murdered in prison. So this brother, he, you know, allegedly, I'm gonna say allegedly because, you know, I got this information on Wikipedia, so there may be some stuff that's not 100% actual factual, but he failed the first grade, he failed the second grade, and he was just on track to, you know, not be a productive student. You know, he probably wasn't even going to graduate from high school. Well, obviously, this man ended up playing in the NFL, so obviously his size, people saw the potential and what he could do playing sports, track, football, and basketball as well. Well, this family, he ended up going to this, he was in foster homes. He ended up going to this private school where he was struggling, and his family took him in. So the family took him in, and, you know, he wanted to go to college, but I read that he had like a 0.76 GPA, where he had a bunch of D's and a bunch of F's. And apparently he went to some online school or private school that was out of Utah, and he was able to retake classes to raise his GPA so that he could then qualify to go to college to play ball. And then from there, he played ball, Mississippi State, and then
Ole Miss. He went to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. Okay, Ole Miss, and then ended up going to the NFL. Well, the storyline behind this is that this family that took him in to help him get him on track, they fell in love with him. They showed him unconditional love. And the story is they adopted him as one of their own and helped him, you know, grow into the man that he became. Well, recently he came out with that he found out they didn't adopt me. They had me sign conservatorship papers. Now, I never heard of conservatorship. Maybe you had. I mean, I heard of it with Britney Spears.
That's it. Say only because of Britney Spears. The only time I've ever heard of it.
And that's why I was like confused as to how they were able to get away with this, because clearly Britney had a psychotic break. Britney's been dealing with a lot of mental health issues. So I understand conservatorship, because basically a conservatorship is for an adult.
Yeah.
Conservatorship is when somebody's under 18 and older. You can't control that person's decisions, but you can control the decisions when it comes to their money.
Yeah.
So by them saying, no, we're going to be your conservator instead of your guardian, that's the piece to me that makes this completely suspicious. It makes it suspicious to me, because obviously as an 18-year-old, you and I are both 18-year-old young black men. We didn't have it figured out. We probably made decisions that were incorrect. And I'll be honest with you, my parents, they didn't have the knowledge to make the best financial decisions for me, or to say, no, don't do this, don't do that, or what have you. They did the best that they could. My parents definitely weren't, you know, Michael Oher's parents, but they just weren't exposed to the things that, you know, you probably needed to be exposed to to avoid financial pitfalls or bad decisions. But to sign the conservatorship over to where you're controlling everything and he controls nothing, to me, that's very suspicious and very fishy.
Yeah, it is. And as I was reading up on it, you know, you hear, like you said, both sides, and they're like, well, and like you mentioned, a conservative, how you say it? Conservatorship. Yeah, that's a tough word for me.
Usually I'm the one messing up the words.
Conservatorship is for adults. But something I heard in the news recently, and I saw it on, I don't know, like a Dateline or something. They were just talking about how you can be adopted as an adult. So they still had that ability to adopt him. It's the same process, basically. The only difference is his biological parents have to sign off on it, which his mom basically signed off on the conservatorship anyway. So them saying, well, we couldn't adopt him when
I don't believe that.
they clearly could have, and they said we sought legal counsel, and they could have, and you know, that's number one, fishy to me. Number two, the part that I didn't know was that the father that adopted him used to play ball for Ole Miss. And so,
and coincidentally, where did he go?
And so they told him, they told Michael Oher, like, hey, if you're thinking about going to Ole Miss, then you got to do this, because otherwise, if we just let you live in our house, they're going to say I'm a booster and you're going to be ineligible to go to Ole Miss.
So that's why they had to do the conservatorship.
That's what they told him. That's what he's claiming. Yes.
And that's still
no, exactly, because that, to me, at the end of the day, if he had said I don't want to go to Ole Miss, I want to go to University of Tennessee, being from Tennessee,
right,
they wouldn't have done the conservatorship.
Yeah, he definitely could have went to Tennessee State.
Yeah.
What's good, everybody? To listen to any of our past shows, go to www.manlistenshow.com, and if you want to add right here in the show, you can do the same thing.
So I don't know, man. You know, social media have been talking about this like crazy. And a lot of people are like, I knew something was off with this. I knew something was off. It did seem off. But I do think that, hell, he's like in his 30s now.
Yeah.
30s, 38, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should know that. But why just now are you talking about this?
Right. That's part of it too. Yeah.
Yeah, what's going on? Because they tried to say that he tried to financially shake them down.
Mm-hmm. Well, because he said they never gave him money from the movie or whatever, and then the family came out today or yesterday, one of these days, and was like,
they talk about we got financial statements and accounts.
Yeah, they said they offered him the money, he declined it because he was getting his NFL money or whatever. And they said early on, again, if he takes money, he's ineligible to play college football at that point. Back then.
But back then, though, the movie wasn't even being thought of. I mean, I don't know when they wrote the book. The whole thing seems fishy because, like, why you adopt this kid and you write a book about him?
Like, look at us. We're, exactly.
Yeah. And that's my issue with that. Like, what are you hoping to gain from it? Are you trying to educate or motivate other white people to go find, some Negro that could play in the NFL, or to give?
Right.
What are you trying to gain from this? And it just looks very, very suspicious. But I'm also questioning Michael because he took offense to the way he was portrayed in the movie. They did play him as the big, dumb, slow Negro.
Mm-hmm.
They did. And no offense to the young man.
I was about to say, well, I mean, you bring it down some info earlier, so.
No offense to the young man.
Yeah.
When you fell first and second grade, and you got all D's and F's, you got a 0.76 GPA. Now, some of that could be just not having structure.
Yeah, a lot of it, I'm sure, is. Yeah.
Some of that is not having structure, not having somebody to push you. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you are intellectually inferior at all, but you just haven't had somebody making you apply yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that once that starts at a young age, it's very hard to get that back on track.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why they can project, other than they just want to warehouse Negroes. They can project who's going to be in prison and who's not. That's why
like third grade or something. I read
by third grade, we're like, right here, y'all gonna be in jail.
Yeah,
y'all gonna be in jail by the way y'all act and the way y'all are performing academically. Which to me, I get it, but it seems like they only do that with us, though.
Yeah, it is, and the movie portrays him, I'm assuming the book too, as a dumb jock, a big dumb jock. And they never talk about the intellect. You have to be smart, honestly, to play a lot of these sports. I mean, you can't just be a dummy and succeed, on athleticism alone, because there is a lot of studying, a lot of understanding of complex principles and complex equations, essentially, to play these sports. And so, you still see it today. If you watch a game, they'll describe a black player a certain way, using certain adjectives, and non-black players, more often than not white players, they'll say he's intelligent, he's smart, all that kind of stuff. So that just furthers the history of how we portray black athletes.
And particularly, I believe he was a tackle.
Yeah.
Play tackle. The tackle position, I played the tackle position. Tackle position, especially depending on quarterback is right-handed. You left-hand tackle, you the most important player on the field because you are protecting the most important player on the field. The position of center, quarterback, you really do have to be a sharp individual to play. And they've always tried to diminish us as black people, especially when it comes to playing that position, because they say, okay, well, they're not able to really play the quarterback position. They're athletic, yes, they can throw the ball, they can do this. And you and I are of an age where we saw that a whole bunch, like with Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon to an extent. I mean, I not even to an extent, because basically he had to go to the
he had to go to the CFL.
He had to go to the CFL. I was going to say USFL. The USFL? Yeah, he had to go to the CFL and play, because I was like, no, you're not going to be able to play quarterback in the NFL. Randall, very athletic. Mike Vick, even today, they don't do it as much because we become more savvy in calling them out in terms of, hey, why can't this young brother play quarterback? They still do it. Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
He's a prime case. And what's sad about that, there's a lot of black folks that said it about Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, there are. I root for Lamar,
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I want to see how the details shake out. I have a funny feeling that it's not going to go in his favor.
Yeah.
Because if he wasn't savvy enough to not sign the conservatorship papers or not do the things that he needed to do to be able to protect himself financially, I don't think that he's going to be able to prove that these people did anything to take advantage of him. It looks like they did take advantage. And now they may have had some goodness in their heart towards him. They probably did love him, but you gotta think that, there's a little bit of this guy, it's going to pay off for us.
It's going to pay off for us, and it's going to pay off, particularly you go to a private school. A lot of times the athletes are shepherded to certain private schools, and they have relationships with certain universities. And as someone who was a former athlete at that university, just so happens to be the family, there's Division I athletes are not common. That's not a common thing, at a big time college. So it's not like they're just a random couple. I suspect that it was something of the school. The school had some input, quite frankly, to try to lure him in and say, hey, can you do this? Get in his ear. He doesn't have guidance. He doesn't have
school. You mean the private school or Ole Miss?
Ole Miss,
probably.
That's my thought.
Because he couldn't even qualify. He couldn't even qualify for the private school,
right?
Because in order to do the private school, I think they had to do a home study, and he didn't complete it. Obviously, I mean, we talked about briefly his home situation. They say he went to like 11 different schools in 9 years. And he didn't complete that. But I read that because he applied, or somehow because he had started the process, it eliminated him from being able to go back to public schools. So they had to take him. Well, they didn't have to, but they said, well, we're going to take him anyway. Which partly means I was like, yeah, you know what? He ain't going to pass if we do the normal procedures. So let's find a way to work around it.
Yeah.
Now, some people say, man, he probably wouldn't have made the NFL. He probably wouldn't have made to where he made it were it not for those white folks. I heard people say that.
I mean, if he was at 0.7 GPA, he wouldn't have even been eligible to play high school sports. So
definitely not college.
Yeah, definitely not college. So, I don't know. I mean, football is the one sport where it's kind of like you do see people who go to undrafted, go to tryouts every year, and they make it, every year.
Yeah.
So who's to say? He probably wouldn't obviously have gotten as much money as he got because he was, drafted and everything like that. But who's to say? Probably not. The chances are much greater if he takes the path he did take. But
I think there's a very good possibility that had they not brought him in, this is keeping it real. Had somebody not brought him in, very good chance that he probably would have been killed or end up in a penitentiary himself. You got a parent on drugs. You got a parent that was in prison, in and out of prison, died in prison, was murdered in prison, and you aren't getting an education.
Right.
So that's a recipe for
disaster,
early grave, or the penitentiary. So I mean, I don't think that they need to be vilified 1,000%, 100%, but were they 100% fair with that man? I don't know.
Right.
So they did invest in him, but if they, obviously they didn't just he gained from it as well.
Right.
NFL, he got into college. I don't know if he graduated from college. He gained from it as well, but if they weren't equitable in the split from the movie proceeds, and if they were controlling his money and taking advantage of his money, then there's a problem with that.
Right. So, that's the next thing I was wondering. So, how did when it came to his NFL contract, did they have a say in that? Because all this centers around the movie and the conservatorship. You would think that they would have some input as far as his contract and all that.
But especially since they control his money.
Right. So that's why, it is. It's a fishy situation. It quite possibly could be that everybody was just doing something for a quick remedy to solve a problem that really didn't exist, and they took shortcuts and they took the quickest resolution, and all parties weren't on the same page.
Yeah. I can see that, man. But I don't know. I mean, I think social media really took off on it. I mean, folks was going after Sandra Bullock.
They said she need to return her Oscar
and give back the Oscar. Which, you know what? At first, I thought that was an overreaction, but then I was just like, you know what? They would do that to us.
Yeah, well, they would.
I don't think she needs to get back her Oscar.
No. But see, this is the whole thing: is that every movie is based on a true story. So they take creative liberty. They take, they have discretion to add characters. Shoot, this even quote unquote reality TV show. I used to.
They're just non-scripted. They're not
right. Really. No. I'm saying I used to watch the first 48, and the first 48 would say, in certain cases, the names and such have been changed to protect people's identity. So sometimes what you're watching isn't actually what really happened.
Right.
Or the people that, names and details are changed.
But they really did that, Negro. Like they had him slow. They had him. What was it? There was one where he was playing and the ref was being racist against him. And, Sandra Bullock got in the ref's face, and he was like, the ref was calling all kind of crazy penalties because he was the big black kid, right? So
yeah.
Which that happens. I had that happen to me. You probably had it happen to you. I mean, depending on where you grew up. I played
I'm a host.
I grew up around a lot of white folks, so I definitely experienced that. But there was another scene where it was like he was driving with her son, and they got into an accident, and they were trying to blame him being a teenager driving with the kid, right, in the family truck. And they were looking at the kid, the white boy, all tended to him, but they weren't paying attention to Michael. So then when she goes and she sees it, she looks at his arm, and his arm is all burnt up, right? And she was like, "They didn't check you out?" And he was like, "Nah." And he was like, he put his arm out to stop the airbag from hitting the little boy. He was like, it had been too much for him, so I stopped it with my arm. And she
John Henry,
yeah, right. She got all the mess people's face. You didn't even check him and all this old shit. It's just it was really a ridiculous moment.
I know you're feeling the show, but picture your ad right here. If you want to advertise with us, hit up the link in our bio and we'll get you on the show.
But speaking of ridiculous, man, Q.
Blindside. What? Yeah.
So Ice Cube went on Tucker Carlson, man. And I found that this thing, when these Negroes start to blur the line and like lean towards like conservative talking in points, shout out to C. They label themselves as free thinkers.
Free thinkers, disruptors.
I'm a free thinker. I'm a free thinker.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people gave Q problems when he sat down with Trump. I don't know if he necessarily sat down with Trump, but he sat down with Trump's people.
Mm-hmm.
And he had, his agenda of what he wanted to see for Black people. And a lot of people was like, Q, you a sellout. Why would you meet with Trump? He said, well, the Biden people didn't want to meet with me. I offered them the same opportunity, which, who was Ice Cube? I get it. You want to use your power and your influence to try to make things better for Black people. But why would they sit down with an entertainer? And I would even, I would say that about any entertainer, not just a rapper or a basketball player, any entertainer, white, Mexican, whatever. But, I commended Q for calling out, hey, listen, we're not getting what we need to get from the current situation. We have to lose by talking to somebody else. I agree with that point. But this interview that he did with Tucker Carlson, I don't know if you watched it or not, man. But
I watched a little bit of it. I remember.
What was it was a pointless ass interview. As Tucker really was kind of leading Cube on.
Oh man, I'm glad you said. I thought it was just me. I was like, he talking about being a free thinker, and Tucker was basically planting little seeds of what he wanted Cube to say.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I really kind of sad that Cube wasn't sophisticated enough to see that.
I didn't watch when he rode in the hood. He took him to the hood, I guess, or whatever. I didn't watch that. But I didn't
see that point. I saw when he was sitting down.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. Yeah.
I didn't watch. I didn't watch the tour of the quote unquote hood.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah.
But there was some things that Q said in the interview that I thought had some validity.
I did too.
Listen, you go to the dance with somebody, you go to the party with somebody, you're supposed to dance with them.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was alluding to how, hey, Democrats, we helped y'all get into office. Y'all need to make some stuff happen for us. Now, I will say this. I do believe that the Biden administration has done some things positive for the Black community. I do. I believe it. Is it enough? No. But I do. I would be remiss in saying that they just haven't done anything.
Yeah,
I can't say that. And so on that point, I do agree with Q. But what really hurt my heart was how Mr. Fuck the Police was like, I just think police officers are just guys who want to win and get home safe.
And then he said, I can understand them thinking that way. You know what I mean? It's like, man, yeah, exactly. And I think he was, when you get to a certain a level, right? So you have partners and so forth that he has that he deals with. And so that's why I think, part of the people that he engages in business with, they watch Tucker Carlson. There's a large portion of the people
he got a real suspicious big business partner with that big three lady.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So they watch him. So it's not out of the ordinary. I mean, for us, we might be blindsided or surprised, but he's in a sense playing to his base, when it comes to his financial business or financial dealings that allow him to be that quote unquote free thinker. And it's no different than, anybody that has business dealings. When you get so far up, the lines become blurred. And so it's hard to separate.
I can't remember who said it. And I wish, I guess I could look it up, but somebody said socially, basically they said socially I'm a Democrat, but financially I'm a Republican.
And then that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense for certain people. It's you see it all the time, and that's one thing I always try to rack my brain, or just sometimes I think about, like, what amount of money there's everybody has a number. We want to castigate him and ridicule him for going to meeting with Trump, but if Trump promised you X amount of dollars, you would meet with him too. Everybody has a number.
But see, I don't have a problem with meeting with Trump, and I've always said this. Trump was in power.
Yeah.
And when you are in power, you still represent us as citizens. We are citizens. So whether I voted for you or not, you still represent me, and you have an obligation to me whether I voted for you or not.
Right, exactly.
So it's up to me, once you're in power, hey, listen, these are my interests, and this is what can you do to help advance my interests. You don't stop just because like a Republican or a Trump's in office.
Right. You still meet because they still can make decisions that would benefit you and what you're trying to do. Like he said, what he's trying to, whatever benefits him, essentially is going to benefit his community. So whoever's in power, you want to have their ear for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Cube hasn't been as relevant musically as Kanye has been. Do you think that this will cause people to just be like, nah, we're not fooling with Cube no more?
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I think they're, I mean, if Cube is having interviews with people, he's reaching, and maybe what he says triggers somebody who is on the right wing listening to Tucker Carlson and say, man, that makes sense, because Cube said, I probably don't deal with the racism because I'm Ice Cube. He said on the day but my friends, my family, people I'm in business with, people I love, he said, I probably get shielded from that because of who I am. And, because I think Tucker was wanted him to say, no, I don't see racism at all, and I think that's why he was kind of leading.
He did kind of go with the whole, it ain't about color.
Right. No, he did.
Which was the second thing that broke my heart.
Yeah.
Because really, it's about green. We know that.
Yeah.
For Q to be like, it's really not about color. And I'm like, come on.
But then for him to come back and say that, I said, okay, well, again, that led me to believe that he's adapting to his circumstance, his situation as well.
How do you go from making music about fuck the police? You got music with Farrakhan, Khaled Abdul Muhammad, Nation of Islam references, and now you sitting down with Tucker Carlson.
I mean, he's trying to reach an untapped market, man, to come see him at the Big Three. They was here a couple weeks ago, and hey, man, it wasn't sold out, but I mean, I'm sure they're getting their money regardless. So
yeah, he's got. I mean, people really have been heralding the Big Three. He's trying to bring folks in. I've never been. I wanted to go, but it was always like a scheduling thing where I couldn't go and watch any of the games. I really wasn't that interested in watching 3-on-3 basketball, to be honest with you. But now I don't think I can fool with it. I can't fool with it. Yes, it's technically a black-owned league. Technically, yeah. I don't know how much ownership Q has. Like, what percentage? Is it like a Magic Johnson percentage? Like, one of those marketing deals? It's like, how much did Magic own of these teams that he's involved in?
The Lakers, I think he probably had the biggest cut. But the Dodgers, I don't think he owned a large percentage, and I don't think he does.
We talk like 2-3%, something like that.
Yeah, probably. Well, let me finish watching Winning Time, and then I'll tell you how much what he owned, what he had of the Lakers.
But like when they have like,
or like Jay owned like a 0.5%, you know what I'm saying, or something.
See, and that like Jay owned part of the,
or like
Venus,
Usher and
part of
Lily,
the
and all these cats own pieces.
Usher owned part of the Cavaliers or whatever. And really, it's kind of more of a marketing deal. It's like, oh, yeah, we're gonna stay courtside and try to bring in the fans that that associated with your celebrity into the games. I think Magic probably owns a bigger piece.
Yeah, I'm sure.
but I can't imagine it being like more than 5-10%.
I can't even imagine it being more than 3.
That's what I'm saying. I'm being real.
Yeah.
I'm being real generous by saying 5. I
Yeah.
didn't want to seem like a sellout, but
Yeah.
it'd probably be more like 2 to 3%. Because Magic worth a lot of dough, but I don't think he got enough to
well,
buy.
that's like, think about like yourself. If like all these NFL teams, they worth $5 billion though, and you do, you know what I'm saying? If they worth $5 billion, you know, you take 1% of that, that's what, 500 million maybe.
Bro.
You know, I mean, you know,
I'm trusting you. You the math guy.
yeah.
So I'm gonna agree. I'm hoping
50 million, 500, it don't matter. You know, it's quick.
Nah, that can't be. Is that 500? That ain't 500 million, dog.
I guess that'd be 50 billion, but yeah, 5 million, 50 million. I mean, 50 million.
Yeah, still more.
Yeah, no, and I'm saying that's still a big chunk.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't 500, but yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, Magic is that figurehead. He's part of the ownership for the Commanders now, ain't he?
Right, he is.
And you know they needed a facelift.
They did. They got a young brother as the GM president. Is one of our frat brothers. They got
hell, man, you talk about the DMV area. One of our frat brothers is the mayor, is the governor of Maryland.
Yeah.
So they
but you know, kind of to circle back, it's like, why meet with Cube, man? Or why would they listen? People are saying, why would they listen to Cube? And it kind of, it stood out to me, you know, recall a line by Jay, and it was on his on Reasonable Doubt. I think he was like, all blacks got is sports and entertainment. And so, you know, you say, who is he? Well, we've seen with Elon Musk, Donald Trump, the people who quote unquote have money, they're the people who tend to drive the conversation when it comes to decisions that are made in government. And so when you look at the overwhelming number of the richest black people, they're in sports and entertainment, where it's not no other way. I mean, I guess probably Hispanics might be the same way. I'm not sure, but that's why we say, why are they the people that they're meeting with? Well, that's why, because they had the most money, and money drives everything.
I see where you're going with that. But I think that a lot of them seem to have, it appears that they have the most money. And when I say it appears that they have more money or the most money, I fully believe that the reason why Michael Oher is going after the Tui family now, saying they took advantage of him, he more than likely is looking at his checking account now.
Yeah.
And like, yo.
But Michael Oher is not.
I ain't got enough to continue how I'm living. I need to try to find where this other revenue streams, how that can come in. And really, honestly, by doing this, he might be messing up his paper long term, because folks who may have wanted to watch that movie, watch no more, so that may mess up the residual money. I don't know.
Well,
But
I saw a movie poster for the Blindside 2 coming out though.
Yeah. The Blindside 2, huh? That's funny. Yeah. Starring who?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Tom Hanks.
The Ice Cube story, yeah. That's funny. But we see, man, a lot of these folks, man, they don't have the money like they say they do. You see a lot of these actors talking about, hey, with this acting strike, this writer strike, it's gonna be real tough, especially on black people.
Yeah, because they was already getting underpaid for their shows.
And we know we talked about in the past when we talked about boycotting the NFL, and we said, hey, yes, you know, the players, they may be okay. Some of them may have stacked a little bit of money, but what about people behind the scenes, the concession, parking lot attendants, other folks? A lot of people behind the camera is black folks.
A lot of them. Yeah.
And they haven't worked in months.
Yeah.
So I see where you're going in terms of the celebrities having money, but I think it's just more so they have the name. because I don't know if his financials was disclosed. I don't think Trump got as much money.
Oh no, he doesn't. He doesn't.
But he has the celebrity.
Yeah.
He has a celebrity. So I don't know, man. We're gonna see how it shakes out with this Blindside. I'm interested to see how it goes with the legal proceedings, if it even gets that far. Something makes me think that they ain't gonna. It's not gonna get that far.
Nah, it'll be a settlement, man.
Yeah, hopefully, but hopefully we see what happens. But I'm sure there'll be NDAs and other stuff to put out there.
Right.
And Q, I don't know, man. You breaking my heart, bro. And I think it's even more disappointing to see Cube do this than Kanye, because Cube hasn't just completely sold out like Kanye did. I can't fool with Kanye. I just really can't. I can't fool with Kanye because he just went absolutely too far with his antics. But it's very disappointing to see Q do this, because I never really thought Kanye was super duper pro-black militant anyway. He was pro-black, but he wasn't militant like Q. So to see Q go out this way, man, it's tough. Say it's tough. But anyway, I think we talked about it enough. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Man Listen Show. Subscribe to the show on YouTube. Go to the link in our bio on our Instagram, buy our merchandise. We'll holler at you next time. Peace. Shout out to Arika and C.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.